Welcome to Firm Fairness in Reporting Media. Here's your host, Mark Merrill.
Hi everyone, Mark Merrill. Today on Firm Fairness in Reporting Media, it's Mills and Bellows-Bad for Maine. Ugh. Don't even want to go through with it, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't. It's just ridiculous. I've had it with these two. It's just another chasm or a dangerous rope bridge we have to cross here in Maine, and it's just out of the realm of comprehension of why in the hell is this going on in our state. In a preliminary statement off the top of our head here at Firm, Mark Merrill, your host, as always. The culprits you see behind me. Mills on the bottom, Bellows on top. Well, interchangeable, aren't they? When does the nonsense of taxation without representation, revenues that are altered or spent after being issued or appropriated during the time that Joe Biden was president, but still just taking the money and doing whatever the hell Mills wants to do with it. Bellows goes ahead, and what does she do? She just wants to make sure that Trump's not on the ballot in November of 2024. And this is way back in February or maybe even March of last year. Did that work out? No, because we have a Supreme Court that upholds the rule of law since it was instituted in 1791. And on it goes. Misstep after misstep. All kinds of intentional misappropriations, spend, as House Minority Leader of the Maine GOP, Billy Bob Falkingham, time and time again, keeps issuing statements over the last several years of Mills administrations. Where's the money? It's being spent, but nothing to show for it. Maine taxpayers have to go without food or have to figure out other places to live temporarily off of grandparents or friends because the taxes are too high. Can't drive the car or the truck. Gas prices were almost staying, and I mean really staying, folks, at almost $4.10 a gallon. It's up to you, folks. We got to make some changes in this state. And this doesn't get any better with this episode about Mills and Bellows being bad for Maine. As we start, folks, Mills launches a new affordable rental housing and in Newcastle, but also promotes new financing of 400 homes and apartments in other parts of Maine. That's a long one, I get it. Totaling over $45 million in costs, but the articles about Miss Mills, and I'm calling her Ms. Mills, she's not my governor, and she sure as hell better not be yours. We're going to be pointing a lot of fingers at those of you who did vote for her. from being elected by out-of-state money. So the ribbon-cutting ceremony took place on July 29th about a 16-unit development among more than 400 new apartments in Maine, supported by the rural, I love this part, affordable rental housing program. Let's see where that leaves just about all of us here, folks. In the dust and more poor than we were before. As we said, part of that project, folks, in Newcastle, Ms. Mills created the Rural Affordable Rental Housing Program in 2021 through her Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan, which over the past 3 years has supported construction of more than 400 new apartments from Sanford to Presque Isle. But whether someone is retired, working full-time, she said, looking to rent an apartment in a rural town or to buy their first home in a city, there should be a place for that person in Maine. The new apartments, appropriately built to match the character and charm of Newcastle, will help the community thrive, she says. While the need for housing in our state is still significant, she's proud of the apartments and homes that they have built for Maine families so far. Well, she said Maine families now. She didn't say anything about migrants. Support for the Newcastle project stemmed from funding proposed by Mills and authorized by the legislature 2 years after, in 2023, and administered through Maine Housing. The two 8-unit apartment buildings in Newcastle were built by KBS Homes in South Paris and feature Maine-made wood fiber insulation manufactured by Timber HP in Madison. Tor Glendinning, who's the chairperson of the Newcastle Select Board, said the affordable housing project is a powerful example of what's possible when a community plans ahead and works together. Since 2019, the Mills administration had dedicated $315 million to alleviate Maine's housing crunch, nearly 5 times the amount the state spent on housing from 2000 to 2018. Well, you can't really blame Paul LePage for that, or John Baldacci. The investments resulted in 2,100 new apartments and homes to date, with more than 1,800 under construction and more than 1,500 units in the pipeline for construction. So here comes the good old bottom line, folks. What's the cost on this? In the past few months, financing for the creation of nearly 400 new homes and apartments has been announced for around the state as well, including $13.4 million to create 129 new apartments in Portland and Lewiston, which comes to 41 affordable apartments for seniors, 88 affordable apartments in Lewiston, 44 at the former Martell School location, and 44 at a site at the corner of Ash and Bates Streets. $23.5 million to build 137 apartments in 9 communities through the latest awards from the Rural Affordable Rental Housing Program, and $9 million, just a little over $9 million, to construct 125 new single-family homes in 10 communities like Sanford, Rumford, Waterville, Monmouth, and Bangor. In addition, several new housing developments also opened recently around the state, including the revitalized spinning mill in Skowhegan, a long-vacated industrial site now transformed with 41 new apartments, and the Picker House Lofts in Lewiston, which features 72 units in a renovated Continental Mill. Well, that might sound like good news, folks. But that's just one side of the coin. The other side of the two-headed coin, the Maine Policy Institute, I'm sure most people are familiar with. They, like the Maine Wire, are pretty much the only news organizations that tell the truth anymore, especially in the legislature. Well, the MPI reports that Shenna Bellows really wants all Maine citizens to jump in the Gulf when it comes to fighting new taxation and spending minus the Trump administration on voter ID. Also, plus an additional referendum vote on red flag laws and more. She throws that in the Gulf of Maine as well. Not going to happen. Oh, she says, does she? Ms. Bellows, you're Secretary of State right now. You're nobody. After you slapped and dodged legislation that could have been passed, but you didn't want to talk to the Republican Party in our state. All you want to do is keep dodging the bullet or kicking the can down the road, whatever phrase you want to use. Things are going to get any better, folks? Well, here's a fairly lengthy segment from the Maine Policy Institute, who has, I should say, on a regular basis, regular interviews and podcasts. This one in particular starts off with Governor Mills not only having a ribbon-cutting ceremony, but goes on to talk about what she hasn't done. It's costing Maine taxpayers and ratepayers through the nose. Here are the gentlemen of the Maine Policy Institute on this particular segment.
Do you guys think she does? I mean, is this... I find it interesting she wouldn't go if Trump isn't there, because you have to think in her, like, girl power brain that saying I'll see you in court is a net positive for her from a political, optical perspective. Yeah. So if Trump's not there, like, is she not going because Trump's not there and she can't confront him in some way, shape, or form? Because
there's no news to be made?
Right, exactly. Because let's be honest, if she were present in the room with Trump again, there's a 0% chance he wouldn't call her out again in some fashion.
I think I have a 4D chess theory. I think that, honestly...
Boy, we're full of them today.
A lot of the... I bet you that even the dim governors right now are sort of like, I don't want to be standing next to you. What if he takes my money away? What if he threatens all my education funding? I don't want to be in that situation. I've got Republicans in my state. That sounds scary. I don't want to do that. So she might be afraid.
So she's a pariah?
A pariah, maybe. You never know. You never know.
The Democratic governor, maybe.
Wouldn't that be interesting? If Trump was there, she 100% would have had to go, though. I mean,
Mr. President, I stand in defiance of your administration.
The thing is, he would have called her out whether she was there or not. He would have, like, stood on the stage. You know, I hear Governor Mills said she would see me in court. Well, I don't see her today. Or something like that, you know?
Right, exactly. That was a halfway passable Trump. That wasn't bad. Nice to hear you. Maybe she, I mean, it is July. Maybe she's just up to camp or something. Steve should request her agenda, her
daily agenda?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Let's see how busy she really is.
Well, I'm guessing there's not a lot on it, right? So there's no reason not to go. And I don't care. I mean, the NGA, who cares about it?
Right.
It's not, there's nothing productive that ever comes out of those meetings. It's stupid. Like, frankly, good for her for not going. Like, whatever. I just think that there's something else up. I think she's plotting out that political future. And my other theory is that maybe, even though Trump's not there, she just doesn't want to, like, have a interaction with, like, the cabinet. Mm-hmm. Because Linda McMahon's going to be there. And Linda McMahon is the education secretary. And, yes, there's all these lawsuits and investigations and Title IX stuff about all that's coming out from the Department of Education. But also, you know, Maine's education system is pretty gross right now. Like, it's a mess. And I wouldn't want to interact with them if I was that.
And she's, you know, maybe not as TV friendly, if you will, in terms of, like, saying ridiculous things like Trump would on a hot mic or whatever in an exchange like that. But if it were a real open conversation about policy, I think Linda McMahon could bring Janet Mills out behind the woodshed on the state of Maine's education system. So that very well could be it.
This is just a guess. I mean, it's just so bad. You guys followed any of the stuff in the papers? There was something in the Press Herald today about school budgets being rejected literally all over the place. Like, clearly people are starting to actually, for once, finally, stand up and say, this is enough. Enough is enough. I can't deal with this anymore.
And I'm sure the primary driver of that is just how absurd property taxes are, but I bet in some of those districts, too, where it's happening, it's people asking themselves, what the hell am I getting for this? Like, you know, my kids aren't.
My kid's drawing with crayons and he's 14.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Something's not right here. Yeah, I suppose that might be part of it.
And meanwhile, it's worth mentioning, I think, by the way, that for the last probably 2 or 3 legislative cycles, there have been bills proposed by Democrats in the legislature to undo the school budget validation referenda. And it's like, imagine if that were the case. Imagine if that were actually the case where a town could just, I mean, a school district, a superintendent could just say, here's the budget. Now you got to pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, imagine you're upset, and I totally get it. I don't fault you for being upset about 7%, 8%, 9% property tax increases year over year over year over year. But if it wasn't for having that local accountability, having to approve those budgets, imagine what it would be. And that's basically the world that they want to go to, quite frankly.
Thank you from the Maine Policy Institute. One final note, folks, not that we want to reveal it, but Shenna Bellows, of course, has come out and said that she wants Donald Trump and, of course, all the rest there to, especially if you're a conservative, to go jump in the Gulf of Maine. She was grandstanding in front of cameras this past week, making a big show of defying the Department of Justice. The Maine Policy Institute, on a regular basis, ladies and gentlemen, tackles a number of Maine stories, including Ms. Bellows picking the fight with Donald Trump, the DOJ, trying to distract from the Epstein files, and told people who were concerned with the integrity of our voting system what to do. They also talk about the apprehension of the Old Orchard Beach police officer by ICE and ask how in the world that could have happened, him being hired by the department in the first place. And additionally, as just mentioned here by the folks at the Policy Institute, in November, folks, you and I will be asked about a voter ID law and the red flag laws we mentioned at the top of the program here, and we know now the order, what they will appear on the ballot. You can also look that up at mainepolicyinstitute.org. And they also talk about some national news for President Trump to establish a new trade deal with the European Union, another round of tariff hikes, which hopefully will make all of our lives a lot easier to deal with. And also check this one out, folks, as Maine Policy Institute on their podcast, and it's called the Pine Tree Pulse podcast. If you want to look that up on mainepolicy.org. I believe that is correct. Let's make double sure. Yeah, it is mainepolicy.org. So thank you again for joining us here on Firm, folks. Mark Merrill, Fairness in Reporting Media. Also want to leave you, as always, with a positive note. What you see before you now is always our links to Twitter, YouTube, and contact us anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on or by message, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. And remember, folks, our rights and freedoms are all right here. Any one of these pamphlets you can find and get them mailed to you. Also, it is a easy way to find them and possibly order boxes of them for your school, with the new school year coming up, through hillsdalecollege.edu. That's right. hillsdalecollege.edu has the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, and Bill of Rights all in one pamphlet. Please think about it. Once again, appreciate you joining us, folks. Stay safe, and peace to all.